I think we could go to the next topic then, right?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. You want to move over to
The
Oblivion? Let's,
Oblivion.
by all
Um,
means.
with this, I really do think like Bethesda shouldn't get the credit that it's a great remaster of a game. Like even compared to other remasters, like I want to say the Pokemon specific remasters were really good. Like certain ones are better than others. Like Soul Silver versus regular Silver
Mm.
was like Soul Silver is my favorite game of any of them. So, and the fact it got a remaster was really cool. Um,
Yeah. I haven't played a Pokemon since Pokemon Stadium.
that's isn't that that's after
Oh, that was on
Fire.
the GameCube. That was on the GameCube.
No, I know, but that's that GameCube finished its run when exactly?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, like it was back in the early 2000s that I was playing Pokemon
Okay, so
Stadium.
pretty much like I think did that game come after Leaf and I'm sorry, Green and Red and shit?
I honestly couldn't even say. You
Okay,
know,
well,
yeah, like
uh,
I used to watch Pokemon like when it was early through like back when it was on original Game Boy. That was kind of my Pokemon era all the way up through Stadium. I never really bought any of the other games. My nephews and stuff, of course, did things like that. But I don't know.
I mean I don't think they're really. I mean I enjoy them to be honest,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah. I don't
I
have a
don't.
problem. I'm not really a big Nintendo head,
So
especially once
getting
the Wii came around.
getting back to Oblivion though, when it comes to Bethesda, they're getting all the credit. When I feel like after Starfield, after 76, like they should like they just regained all their favor in terms of all they lost with. I mean not all of it, mind you. Starfield was atrocious, so was the launch of 76, but they did regain some trust with the players, and I feel like they don't deserve it. The company who remastered it do.
Oh yeah. I mean, but that's going to be par for the course for a lot of things. A lot of people, you know, um, look at the way Marvel has been handled by Disney, and then everybody's like, "Oh, it's complete and utter dog shit." And we're finally getting to the point where people are openly willing to just kind of admit that. But then Daredevil, Born Again season comes out a couple months ago, and so many of those people are like, "I'm so done with this." Like, man, it's gonna be good again. It's like, dude, that girl, she's been cheating on you, and I know she says she's gonna change, but you're a simp,
Well,
and that to me
Disney
is like a
used
lot
to.
of
Disney was running Marvel's like of since when? Early 2000s? And they were
Iron
making
Man is
banger
like
after
17,
banger.
18 years old now at this point in
Yeah.
time. Right, but that was a very different thing. Stan Lee was still alive. As soon as Stan Lee
Yeah.
died, then there's a certain amount of like Lord of the Rings. It is going through a metamorphosis right now from a thing that used to be very intent on respecting the lore, appreciating the books, actually knowing what the Lord of the Rings is really about. Um, you know, and now you've got fucking, Rangs of Prime, which is obviously, a skin suited kind of thing. But then you also have that Shield Maiden, Rite of Rohirrim that came out, and that's not really, all that great. And so they're talking about how they're going to go back into this with Ian McKellen and do all this kind of stuff. They're going to try to make some Golem movies. It's like, just no, stop. Like some things don't need to be, uh, constantly revisited. So I think that that's going to be one of those things. A lot of people are very forgiving, just in nature, and they just want the thing that they want to love, right? And
Well,
so
it
they're willing to put
truly
up with
it
a lot.
when it comes to the Oblivion remaster, it feels so much like Stolen Valor that pretty much this company that I mean, I'm not sure if it was them who changed the body type stuff, but it could have been. It could have been Bethesda told
I
them
would
to.
imagine that has more to do with the middleware itself, especially if it's being done in the Unreal 5 engine.
Yeah,
It,
is it like I've seen videos where it shows Unreal has a hard time making uh I don't know how to say the word
well,
contract.
they've got an androgynous body morph that, and that's why scalers and all this kind of stuff. So ultimately, it's more of an issue of the middleware than it is some ideological thing. Could it be an ideological thing? Sure, all things are possible, but I
Well,
think
I
that it's
just
more.
like back
I
to
think it's more
my
that the middleware came pre-programmed that way, and they just
yeah.
went with it rather than hiring somebody to go in there and change this, change that, and whatever. So I think that, because I know there was a little bit of an uproar about that
Well,
aspect
it
of, they're like,
wasn't so
but
much the body type, it was Nexus really that like completely caused the uproar, to be honest.
well, I think that, I mean, Nexus
He definitely
was
made it
right, but
worse.
they certainly, of course, they generally do for most things, but if there weren't an initial uproar, there wouldn't have been mods for it, right? So that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, is that, there are people nowadays that are so hypersensitive to this stuff.
Well, dude, I'm not sure how far you are into the modding shit, right? But there's mods for everything, so it was only a matter of time before someone changed it.
Well, of course, but that's the whole thing why people have their issues with Nexus specifically, is it is not about being a modding community. It's about being an ideological community that happens to do modding, and so you have there's a lot of stuff there where they're just like, well, I don't like it, so it's got to go away, you know, and they just don't. They're they're very sensorial over at Nexus Mods, and so they did make a situation worse in and of itself. But also at the same time, you know, the body type 1 and 2 stuff, it certainly is annoying, right? But is it the kind of thing that I'm going to completely flip a table over and kind of be like, so woke? There's
I don't
there's
think
more
many
things that.
people are, but like
No, no, no.
I
But
do feel
there
like
are a very loud contingent of people, even within this space the kind of people that gravitate towards this area of the internet, that are just so ambivalent about it, and so that's why I try to bring into the conversation my background with actual game construction, stuff like that, and I just, the way that um,
I do got a
development
question though
works.
when it comes to
Mhm.
the body type, like with game mechanics involved. So, like you have experience with that type of stuff, making games and stuff. But how do you, are you sure that it's more so the engine than it is the like or like I guess how do you like how are you
Because
playing out?
the metahuman, it's built in there, like, like, it's just the middleware itself
You're gonna
is.
have to explain what like
All right.
middleware stuff
So
is.
middleware is, all right. So rather than building everything from the ground up, a
Yep,
lot of games, and this is why games are so homogenized now. A lot of companies will go and they'll use an engine like Unreal 5, and then they'll
yep.
use, like, it's basically buying an app, and they just let the app do it, right? And so rather than actually having somebody who figures out, they develop their own engine, they make all the physics, they do all the this and the that, they code every last bit of
No,
it.
I understand
They
that
just,
point, but my question really is like, how are you sure that they didn't edit that after doing all that?
because what I'm saying is the middleware is the thing that came that way, and they're trying to keep their budgets down, right?
Yeah.
And so if it has type 1 or type 2 there, are they really going to, want Bill to spend, you know, 10-15 hours of doing this and that just to take something that's a very superficial, superfluous detail? And that's the thing. Is like, when people get so caught up in any one thing, it'd be like, you know, someone saying, this guy that's talking, he's got good points and everything like that, but he's wearing sunglasses, so fuck him. How dare like it's just like I don't think anybody's gonna do that, but if you get so ambivalent about nitpicky bullshit at a certain point in time, it's like, well, you're just looking to almost be angry. Like nothing is ever going to be what you
I
want in
think
life.
the average person didn't care, but it was an
Right.
annoyance to them. But
Sure,
then I
sure.
feel like after, like, genuinely, people did start causing more of an uproar after
Right.
Nexus mod like banned 3 mods and came out and lied and said that was because he was posting inflammatory stuff when it was 3 separate users that uploaded the mod, so all of them were doing inflammatory shit. I don't know.
Right, right. Oh yeah, no, like Nexus mods is insidious and certainly not to be trusted. But that's I'm just saying, you kind of have to take things for the totality of what it is, holistically. Because if you just sit here and say, well, this doesn't meet every little one of my
No,
demands,
I
no,
completely think that the Oblivion remaster is a great game. I
yeah,
don't really, I mean, I don't even care enough about the buy tape shit to actually install the mod, to be
right,
honest.
right. Because it's like
It's a
it's
pointless change, you know? Like
right,
everything is the same.
right, and that's the thing is like, and that's why when it was, some of the static from people that are like, oh, it's so woke. It's like, dude, let's not try to make everything the end of the world, because if you go, it's kind of like how if everything's awesome, nothing is awesome. If everything is such a uh, soul crushing defeat because it's there, then it's like, dude, you sit here and you talk about snowflakes and now you're being one. It's like,
I will say that like if they actually called people like if like so when it comes to buy tape stuff, if they
mm,
went with like they them shit
sure,
instead of
then
calling,
there'd be
that would
something
annoy me.
to get in. Yeah, I mean, well, then that would be actively, because again, when Veilguard came out, when Avowed came out, where's the transing center, in this medieval timeline? Corey, he's a dude, right? But he calls himself Corinne. And, he's got a 5 o'clock shadow that he tries to cover with makeup. He's like, like he's a troon, right? And
All right, well,
so,
I'm also on Twitch, so be
yeah,
careful what you say
right,
because
right. Okay, all right. True.
they're like
Yeah, all
YouTube.
right.
I don't think I'll get in trouble, but
No,
Twitch
no,
is
I've said that on YouTube plenty of times, but yeah, I've tried to keep it to a minimum. But the point I'm getting at is there was an ideologue as the head of overseeing all of the development in that specific instance. So that person specifically oversaw the this, the that, and every little.
I mean, I can't think of much more to say. I just think that it's really stolen valor to take like this company who made it also made like the Shadow of Colossus. Fuck, I forget that. I don't know the franchise that's part of, but it's do you know the Shadow of Colossus game?
Eco, of course, Shadow Colossus, and God, Last Guardian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think they're the same devs who remastered that one because didn't that game also get remastered?
One or two of them did. Yeah, I played Eco, the original, all the way back on the PS2, and then Shadow Colossus, I believe, was PS3, and I believe they did a remaster for that.
Yeah, so that's probably the one I'm thinking of. Because
Yeah,
back when the rumors about the Oblivion remaster came out, I watched videos on it and they came out and said like, oh, they do a good this studio does a good job with remasters. It's like it they did a great job with Shadow Colossus and stuff. And so that's the only reason I remember that they did work on that remaster in particular.
right, right. Yeah, oftentimes at this point in time in game development, uh, a lot of the work is outsourced, uh, and I honestly feel that that can be a good thing and a bad thing. because if you do a lot of outsourcing to a lot of various places to take care of different parts of it and then just try to stitch it together, the more people that you add to it, the more you're bloating your production and all this kind of stuff. And if you get too many people in the creative end of it, then it becomes designed by committee. Expedition 33 just came out, right? And it's
Yep.
really popular. And it's made by a whole bunch of people that used to work at Ubisoft. And people are like, yeah, but Ubisoft's terrible. It's like, yeah, but the reason Ubisoft's terrible now is because they don't have those 30 some odd people that went and started this new company to make Expedition 33. And so, that's 30 people. It's much easier to find consensus amongst
Well,
30
it's
people
like
than it
the
is 300.
saying. It's like the old saying: two programmers can. Or I'm sorry, the other way. No, no, that is right. Two programmers can do the work of one.
Yeah, right. But, that's, yeah, that's really what it comes down to. And it's not as though it's even going to be necessarily faster to have more programmers, writing
It's
code
just a
because it
lot
all
more
has to work together.
bureaucracy in the
Right,
company, really. Like it's
right,
more so checking over each other's shoulders.
right.
When like I also feel like when it comes to the game industry, I'm gonna be on a side tangent here, but when it comes to the game industry, a lot of it feels like there's a lot of people who have a lot of say that shouldn't. Like
Mhm.
it feels like there's a lot of different people who can't agree on stuff and actively that one person wants one thing but the other wants another, and it's up to corporate to decide who gets the what. And it does feel like a lot of the weirdos do get their way more times than
Oh
not.
yeah, and that's been documented plenty of times because generally what you have is you have your actual designers in the middle. They're sandwiched in between low level, compliant, pliable, more often than not, ideologically minded DEI hires that want to get to the top as quickly as possible. They've got stars in their eyes. They just, they want the glory, but they don't want to
They're
do
not
any of
in
the
it for
grueling.
the game. They're in it for
Right.
the
The
honor
paycheck
and shit, the
making,
paycheck.
oh, I'm a game dev, it's, yeah. And then the people at the top uh spend a lot of their times in meetings all day. And so if you're actually somebody who's creative, the creative people generally stay towards the center, right? Because they just keep their head down, they do the work, they're just trying to do their job. They're
Well,
happy to
those
just kind of
I
be in
feel
an
like
industry
those people
still.
are the most important to
They
speak up,
are.
though.
They are, but you're looking at an industry that's ready to just, mill you out, put in a new body. There's plenty of people looking for jobs in the game industry that have some level of experience, whether that's
Well, that's
actually
why we got
quality
so many
experience or not.
indies now, indie
Right,
companies. Like
right.
you obviously heard that like two studios formed out of CD Project Red.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
One of
yeah.
the vampire game, I think it is, that's being made from one of them.
Mhm.
Dawn something.
I can't say that I'm quite aware of what the name is right at the moment, but
I think it's like
keep going.
Dawnbreaker, some not Dawnbreaker.
Sounds,
That's a weapon in Skyrim.
yeah.
Uh, I want to say Dawn, not Dawn Guard. That's another thing from Skyrim. What the fuck?
Uh,
Nah, but uh, I
I, I
think we
I
can
wouldn't worry
pretty
too much about
much.
it. But yeah, the there definitely is a thing where a lot of the old talent from when AAA titles were good have gone to break off of what is the thing that's known as a big IP, like GTA 6, right? I don't, which is now officially delayed into 2026, a year from now.
I
And
don't think it's gonna be any good. All the flagship people are gone.
right. A lot of the main people that actually made that thing what it was over the course of decades have gone to do
Like
this
the
absurd
last people
ventures.
to leave were the leadership who created even the older games, right?
Right. Yeah. Back in 2020, I nearly got hired to work at Rockstar.
Yeah.
and I encountered a ethically beige woman at the end of the process who told me under no uncertain terms would I even be hired to work in QA. That's how I knew that they were fully uh, in the woke train at that point in time, because I have spent and by that point in time, I'd already spent over 400 days in Grand Theft Auto Online alone, right? Amongst all my years of experience playing all the other games, like Grand Theft Auto was the reason, not necessarily the reason, but it was one of the game companies. Rockstar was that was where I wanted to work, right? And ultimately, one of my friends from college, he does work there. Um, I believe still. I haven't talked to him in a few years because his brain broke during COVID Hell World, and I just really haven't. You know, I mean, a lot of people have changed and shifted in the last 5 to 10 years from who they used to be, based on all this weird kind of stuff that's happening just in the world in general. But yeah, I was qualified enough, if not to be in the uh, dev department or the design department rather, but to at least be in the development process in QA, because I like to break things and figure out how to make them more resilient and resistant to being broken. Going down the line and things
So
like that.
what, you would rather be like a game tester? Like, what do you mean by
Yeah, yeah,
breaking?
yeah. No, I did game testing for a company called Volt, which was a third party contract company that did game testing for Microsoft
Yeah,
Xbox.
I don't think I'm very smart when it comes to looking for bugs, because
Right.
I can't think of something that instantly would get me like really to break the game.
Well,
Like yeah, you've probably heard of the Spiffing Brit, right? That YouTuber.
I've heard the
Like
name, but I can't say I'm too familiar with him.
the dude within hours like can find every bug in the game. It's like you should really look into him because it is funny content.
Hmm.
He does it for every game, but actually reports the bugs to the devs. Like
Right.
he obviously abuses them before reporting it,
Well, that's
but
that's that's what game testing is. Is you
yeah,
put
but no, but
you
these are
test
like
it
fully
beyond what.
launched games. These are not
Right.
like
Oh
in
yeah, yeah, and
development.
right, and there's a lot of that that still creeps through, and more and more now that we have uh, day zero updates. They'll ship a game before it's
Yeah,
on
day
final code.
one fucking updates and shit that literally are 100 gigabytes.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Is like they will, uh, and this is part of the reason why they want to move away from physical media. Honestly, is they want to be able to have control over the code all the way up until the point of release and then even after, obviously, as well. But when you go and you ship a game on a disc, it takes time to press all that stuff, to get everything all set up, so when a game goes gold, it's still another 2 to 3 months out from when it's actually going to arrive at the stores to be put on sale. And so that's 60 to 90 days of time that you can sit here and work on things. And so there will, yeah, going forward, back in the day, you made a game, you shipped a game, it had to be as good as it was going to be because there wasn't, the opportunity to go and
I
do.
do feel eventually companies are gonna be sued for saying we don't own shit we buy, and it will be like, especially like with that. You heard of that movement? Some European guys starting like
Yeah,
uh
yeah, I've covered it on Old White Road, or might have been one. It was a reality based show because I think that was back when we were doing when I was doing
well,
three
like
shows a
he
week.
pretty
But yeah,
much he wants like, because games that are online, like once you buy them and they shut down the servers, there's no playing it anymore. Like there's
right,
like, especially if there's no player run servers.
right. But a lot of that also has to do with just the nature of the way these game companies are set up these days. Like PSN is a
Well,
centralized
I think
network.
they're gonna get
Microsoft's a
sued
centralized
so
network.
much. They're gonna get sued so much that they are gonna go back to
Uh,
actually like
I mean, it's
going
one of those
back
things.
to
I
Go
think
on.
to the buyer beware. I think it would be great if every game had an ad hoc mode to let you just do local, you know, local crossplay, with just set up a couple systems here and there. But they're also geared towards online service models that they just kind of it's baked into it now, where a lot of this has been set up for obsolescence. Now, I do think, every game should have an offline mode. I agree with it in principle. I
Well,
just don't know how
I think when
successful
it
it's going to
comes
be.
to online service games, they should offer player-run servers. Like that's the very least.
Well, it would be
Like,
great if they did ad hocs. Yeah, that's
oh,
let people.
that's
But
what
that would
that's
be
called. Okay, I
an
didn't
ad
know
hoc
that.
server is where I get to be the host and you get to be somebody
Oh no,
who's
I'm talking about like server hosting
Mhm.
websites,
Yeah,
stuff
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, and yeah. They're centralized, which
Yep.
is where you use PSN and the all the stuff is done on their end, or it can be run through the company, which can still be centralized, or there's ad hoc servers. And an ad hoc server is where I create the server and then people join my server, and it's decentralized from anybody's control beyond that. But because they're so caught up in this idea of don't mess with our code, don't do modding, don't do this. If you do that, it's an
Well, did
infringement
you
on
hear
our
about
intellectual
Oblivion
property.
too? To bring it back to
Mhm.
Oblivion, you heard what that in their UER or EU
The EULA,
LA?
yeah.
Yeah, EULA. Pretty much like they have it actually in there that you're not allowed. They have anti-cheat,
Hmm.
and they pretty much say, and it pretty much blocks modding, or at least like easily.
Right,
Like it is still capable of modded, but apparently it's a lot more difficult.
right.
Or you
Yeah,
could be,
they
yeah.
did. They did. They're doing the same thing with those Final Fantasy VII remakes because they don't want Tifa mods. Basically, people are still going to do them, but they're holding on to this idea because this is the whole thing about the way that current media properties work. Is Disney's not Disney anymore. It's the Buena Vista Corporation. It just uses the Disney logo. It hasn't been Disney for like 30 some odd years at this point in time. And that's becoming more of a trend. The more things kind of get bought up and gobbled up, there's only six main media companies in the
So
world, right? And so they everything gets homogenized under the banner of they want it to be iterative and they want it to be easy and they want to have control over it. They own it, not you, and that's ultimately what they're saying. I don't agree with it, but that's but they have the lawmakers in their favor. They have all this kind of stuff. They've been
well,
building
it
it
won't
towards this.
matter if specifically like a bunch of content creators do like start like, I mean, I'm sure it could, the movement to like keep games active at least with player owned servers, it could get big enough to the point that it causes the EU specifically to cause laws that say that you do own your games and stuff that
Right.
will force them to pretty much
Well,
change
I
it.
certainly I certainly hope that it turns out well in that regard, and that is ultimately what takes place with it. But that's one of those things where it's uh it when you're talking about games on a global scale, uh, it is easier to try to have your code be consistent from region to region as much as possible. But then there's localization stuff. It could be a thing where in Europe they can't sit here and say that this intellectual property is owned by the copyright holder, and you're just using a service license. They could
Yep.
in theory, they can get away with that in Europe, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to carry over here to the U.S. because the way that the lobbyist system works within the government, the bureaucracy that we're talking about, it where corporations end and government begins it's not even a line anymore. It's a smudge. They're so infiltrated back and forth with each other. A lot of lobbyists, you know, uh, the the governance of things. in many ways is controlled in backroom dealings and stock
Yeah,
options, all this kind of
I
stuff.
think that when it comes to that type of stuff, I'd rather they not lobby shit, but like,
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I'm in full agreement with you there. It's just what we want and what we have to do to avoid that. That we're like 30, 40 years into a zombie economy right now. The way that all this inflation stuff cycles and all this kind of stuff, and so the balance of the scale has been tipped intentionally to these large scale corporations and the corporatist globalism, the stakeholders, and a lot of things, they ultimately want to have top down control systems. And which is why you hear the whole thing about you'll own nothing, you can be happy, you don't own your games. But if you don't own the games, then technically, how could you ever steal something that nobody can ever own? So that's kind of my punk rock kind of solution to it. It's like, yeah, do what you want. A lot of times the games that are modded and hacked and cracked and all this kind of stuff, they'll actually play better. And there are often times where if you have a problem with your legitimate game, they have used game cracks to fix problems with games as the official way to take care of it. When you need to get tech support involved because they don't know how to fix their own thing. So they're just ultimately relying on somebody who actually has the time and care and consideration to go and figure out how to get beyond these hurdles that have been put in place largely for, the sake of the bureaucracy. It's unfortunate, but yeah.